So great, we get you after you have your food coma. This is the worst time. My name is Chris Harris. A little background. I'm from New York. I was a cop in New York, and if I drop the F-bomb, well, actually, I don't care. So I started in law enforcement when I was 18. I started in New York State Corrections back in 1982, worked at a fun little place called Sing Sing. They rioted in January of '83, took 18 of my brother officers hostage for 3 days, and I said, yeah, this job sucks. So after a while, I got in the cops in New York. I was a detective. I went to the federal government, started in the Treasury Department, then the Border Patrol with the Department of Justice, and then when they put together Homeland Security with the Department of Homeland Security. So I've been asked to kind of touch on a little things, and I notice when I do speaking engagements with groups, and I do it with liberal groups and conservative groups, both sides of the aisle, there's a lot of misunderstanding of DHS, Department of Homeland Security. So I'll just do a real quick preface on that if you don't mind. So after 9/11, they decided that it was a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction, but we need to do better, which we all could agree that was the case. And they took 22 disparate agencies and shoved them together into Homeland Security. And make no bones about it, unfortunately, Homeland Security is a dysfunctional agency. When I was in D.C. for the Union in 2002, meeting with some senators and stuff, the Border Patrol management was nowhere to be found. Congressmen were asking who's going to go after these visa overstays, which was most of those terrorists. 14 of the hijackers were visa overstays. Instead of Border Patrol management saying, hey, that's us, we have that statutory authority, we just haven't done it, they kept their mouths shut, and they formed ICE. And God bless ICE, but it's kind of duplicative. But the biggest thing that struck me even back in 2002 about DHS was this was supposed to keep our country safe. And when I was a detective in New York, my favorite agency was not the FBI in a lot of things. I worked with the DEA a lot. But I do say that probably they're the premier anti-terrorist law enforcement agency in the United States. And when I realized that they were not putting the FBI in DHS, the premier law enforcement agency for terrorism, I realized that this was kind of just a show. You have this agency that's supposed to protect this country, but the FBI is in another agency. I usually get down and walk around people. I'm kind of mobile. I'm Irish. I don't shut up. I move around, so this is a little difficult for me. So under DHS is CBP. And the liberal media likes to get that. They call it the weirdest names, but it actually just stands for Customs and Border Protection. Underneath that, there's 3 subcomponents. The smallest is Office of Air and Marine, and that was kind of a bullshit decision to make them because they took our air arm away from the Border Patrol and created Office of Air and Marine. And if anybody's a Marine in here, you know you don't give up your integral air arm. And we're looking to get that back. We were like the Marine Corps. You were an agent first, then a pilot. So they formed Office of Air and Marine, subcomponent of Customs and Border Protection. And then they took some agriculture inspectors, immigration inspectors, and customs inspectors and put them together, and they are the Office of Field Operations. So when you go through a port of entry and you get pissed off, please don't say that's the Border Patrol. If they're wearing blue, that ain't us. We wear green. And the other component of CBP is the United States Border Patrol. We're not U.S. Border Patrol officers. We're not U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers. We're United States Border Patrol agents. So we are a little bit smaller than CBP OFO right now, Office of Field Operations. We are attriting away. When I talk, I ramble. I'll go anywhere where I feel like I want to go, so just bear with me. It's stream of conscious. One term I wanted to make clear, illegal alien. If I use that term, I understand nobody's illegal by their sheer being, but the fact is that is the actual law. That's in the law. It's illegal alien. So I'm sorry if that offends people. I get it that you're not illegal just because you're here as a person, but your status is that of an illegal alien. Not an illegal immigrant, not unlawful or undocumented, an illegal alien. That's your status. The other one I want to correct real quick, and if you hear this, you can correct people when they say, well, jumping the fence or entering illegally is not a criminal offense, it's a civil offense. There is a civil charge, and we use that for years, and I don't know why, but it's actually a criminal offense. AUSC 1325, entry without inspection. And actually, as a United States citizen, you can still be charged with that if you don't enter through a port of entry. So if anybody says to you, you hear people going, oh, it's not a crime, it is an offense. You can go to federal prison for your first offense. Your second offense of 8 USC 1325 is a felony. So make no bones about it, jumping that fence is a crime. It's just that the U.S. Attorney's Office don't prosecute. And that will bring me into another part of the subject. The immigration problem, the border enforcement problem, the border security problem, and as it relates to national security, is a complex and multifaceted problem. And unfortunately, we've become accustomed in this country that we want a silver bullet fix. We like sound bites. That ain't going to work in this situation. Since it's a multifaceted and complex problem, guess what? It needs a multifaceted and complex solution. And I hate to use this term, I'm from New York, but I guess California's gotten to me. It needs a holistic approach. No bean sprouts, no granola, but what it needs is that, yeah, you can see 20 years, I don't know. They're going to take away my New York card. What it needs is an approach that has the U.S. Attorney's involvement, where U.S. attorneys prosecute for these crimes. We need more immigration judges. We need more detention space. We're doing better now, but we're still catching people and releasing people. We have 35,000 bed spaces for detention, más o menos, in the United States. So they're filled. When somebody comes in the front door, somebody's got to go out the back door. And the numbers are starting to tick up again. The rhetoric and the statements from this president were fantastic. The National Border Patrol Council, we didn't violate. I had liberals calling me up and saying, you broke the law. It was our own internal policy. We didn't endorse or support any political party or candidate. We supported President Trump, the first time ever. There was a reason for that, and I'll tell you the reason. Nobody has ever listened to us before. Nobody has considered us the subject matter experts. And that man looked at us and looked at our union, and not all unions are bad, looked at our union, and he said, I'm going to consider you guys the subject matter experts on securing the border, and I'm going to come to you and ask you how it should be done. Not some liberal politician, or not some professor in Harvard, or not some attorney, you guys. And I use this analogy. If you ran a school district, you're on the board of ed, and you had a troubled school district, and you're interviewing 2 school superintendents, and one said, you know what, I talked to all the stakeholders. I talked to parents. I talked to people who pay property taxes. I talked to the teachers. I talked to everybody. And the other one said, yeah, I don't even talk to the teachers, screw them. You're not going to hire him. So that's how it's been for us for years, so we endorsed President Trump. The problem we're seeing now is what is being said by him, and what he means is not getting down to what they call the ground truth. Nothing has really changed for the Border Patrol. ICE, yes. The director of ICE, the acting director Holman, is a former Border Patrol agent. He knows how to get things done. I talked to my chief, Ron Vitello, who we like, about 6 weeks ago, and I said, Chief, we're not seeing any different in enforcement in the U.S. Border Patrol. And what he told me was really disturbing. He said, we're going to remain risk-averse, and we're going to keep the same smaller footprint for enforcement that we've had. And there's people in bureaucracy, in CBP, in DHS, and unfortunately in my own outfit, the United States Border Patrol, who are not moving to change things. And there's 2 types. There's what's used, and I hate the term because it sounds so paranoid, but there's the deep state. People have an agenda. They've drank the Kool-Aid. And even in my own agency, they've risen under Obama, and they believe in it. And then there's just the kind of bureaucrats who just like homeostasis. This is comfortable. This is easy. There's a saying in the Border Patrol, unfortunately, among some of these people, you don't get in trouble for the illegal, you don't arrest. And we have to change that narrative. And that means you people, all of you, who are here because you're interested and you're active, you need to call your politicians, your legislators, and say, why isn't the Border Patrol being allowed to do what they should do? People ask me, do you need new laws? F no. We can enforce the laws that are there. Let us do it. My agency on the U.S. border, and it cracks me up when we're called a racist organization, is a minority-majority agency, which I do border tours, and by the way, anybody's welcome to come up to me afterwards, get my contact information, and I do border tours for the press, for legislators, their staffers, and for the general public. It's a union tour, so you will see the border up close and personal. It's not a dog and pony show through the agency. So one last thing I want to touch on, I know my time's running out. We have a tremendous problem down where I work in the Imperial Beach Border Patrol Station. I've been there for 20 years. And throughout that 20 years, raw Mexican sewage and chemicals have been flowing into the United States. And we're finally getting active about it. And it's getting worse, actually. People ask me, do you think Mexico's doing it on purpose? I don't make that leap, but I don't think they give a shit. Pun intended. So I've called out on TV Governor Brown because he's out gallivanting saving the world, but in his own backyard there's an environmental catastrophe and he's remarkably silent. As is the Sierra Club and Greenpeace. The only real good environmental organization I'm working with right now is Wild Coast. I've been getting out to the press pictures of my guys' feet with chemical burns on them, where their shoelaces, their bootlaces have dissolved. And this is continuing. So this is not just sewage, which is bad enough, the biologics. This is chemicals and heavy metals. It'll get to the point where that area on the border, 6 or so miles, that we've gained control of, we know how to do it. We can do it. We won't be able to patrol there. My guys are willing to risk the normal law enforcement dangers of being shot at. I've been shot at 3 times. I've been in a fatal shooting. We're willing to risk being assaulted and rocked. I've been hit in the head with a rock. We're willing to put up with that. We're not willing to work in a sewer plant or a chemical dump. And so for that, I would ask you to call your local legislators and ask the EPA. You think this would be a cause celeb for them, to ask the EPA to come forward and do something about it, but we're actually getting pushback from the EPA saying, well, just stay out of that stuff. We can't patrol the border. We just caught 5 Nepalese or guys who are claiming to be Nepalese inside that stuff. We have to go in and get them. It's on the Imperial Beach Border Patrol Station area of operations. It runs from the San Ysidro Port of Entry to the Pacific Ocean. It's at least 6 miles, and sewage is running in, and chemicals are running in 4 or 5 different areas. Goat Canyon, Smuggler's Gulch, Yogurt Canyon. It's chemicals. You can smell it. It's caustic. So we need help with that. And the other help is we need help getting past that blockage in DHS, CBP, and Border Patrol that is preventing us from doing what my guys, my men and women want to do, and that's protect this country and the people therein. Thank you.